So I think there's only one other major area that, from a policy standpoint, that I think has a potential to have a significant impact on the tech industry, and that is immigration, specifically in the form of the H1B. During his first administration, he did put on new caps and restrictions around the H1B visa, which a lot of tech companies have used to import talent from around the world. Um, Interestingly enough, the pandemic actually sort of caused a shift in a lot of that. So it's a little bit questionable the degree to which it would have an impact today if there's a continued tightening. But I do think that's the if as I there's some other fun stuff that we'll talk about here in a second, I think. But from a policy standpoint, that was sort of the last one that I have my eye on. And again, I'm not clear. He has not made it. He lots of talk about immigration, not this kind of immigration that he was talking about on the campaign trail. So really unclear if this is in his scopes or his administration scopes now or not. But I'm curious what your take is on that.
Yeah, I think this is actually one where tech might have a moderating effect. Like this might be the first time I've ever said in my life, and I could be wrong about this, that Peter Thiel might have a moderating effect on American politics. But it's hard to see how tech is going to keep teching without H1B visas at the end of the day. We just don't have enough developers and techies inside the United States to be able to handle all of the work that we do. How do we survive, frankly, without Indian and European developers? Like, I don't know how it would actually work. We would have to take apart a lot of big tech and a lot of IT departments immediately if we really cut down on that set of immigration. So I am hoping in that regard that the tech investors who won this election have been able to are able to make some headway in that regard and point out just the reality of what kinds of visas are needed, or at least selfishly get enough visas for their own companies. So so that at least there
so
are some
let's talk.
available.
So let's talk about Thiel and the others, Musk and Dreesen and a few others that backed Trump very vocally and visibly. Um, I think it's interesting. So clearly they're coming out on the winning end of this. What I'm not as clear on, and what I wasn't clear on during the election, is to why the upside. I mean, with the exception of Musk, I think we can see the upside for Musk. But for the rest of the tech investor community that isn't Musk, I'm curious what you think on that. Is this in fact a win for them? And if so, in what ways? Is it simply authentic that they thought he was going to be better for the tech industry and the tech business, or do you think there's something else at play?
I do think there are some personal reasons that, especially Peter Thiel, Thiel, Musk, and Andreessen, and others have uh, in terms of their personal politics. I would rather not get into that, to be honest, because I do think there's also some business reasons for them to get involved. For instance, Peter Thiel's uh, ownership with Palantir. Palantir is an obvious government agency, uh, a provider of technology. Likewise, Musk with SpaceX is a big government provider of technology. Mark Andreessen definitely has enough money to be able to invest in large tech organizations that can get government contracts as well. So I think all of them had financial reasons to back Trump in this case and to get a bigger piece of the pie than they are currently getting now. And this especially goes is true if, say, Musk ends up being able to de facto, say, run NASA. I mean, which might sound wacky on its surface, but SpaceX is already doing so much for NASA, honestly, as a provider, that it would not be a huge surprise for me to see a bigger role there. And then, what ends up happening with all these Starlink satellites and the rockets and stuff. This isn't really IT related, but it just kind of shows why they would have cared about being able to do this. Of course, Musk also has big AI uh, hopes as well. He's been building his gigantic AI data center. He's been trying to get Tesla cars to be self-driving. All these reasons that he is very much locked into America's technology spend, not just from a private perspective, public perspective, but from a governmental perspective as well. There's a lot of funds that he can dip into for that from a government perspective.
The the part that still has me scratching my head, and maybe it's purely personal, like to your point, maybe that's all it is. But the reason the tech industry has largely been agnostic for I mean, almost since its very existence. I mean, you'd have individual executives go and do whatever, but in terms of public going out there and sort of representing the company, it is because tech was a sort of universal thing. Every
Mhm.
the country needed it. It didn't matter what administration was in office. It was sort of the same. And so it's just really fascinating to me that there was that shift here. And I'm just not clear, what the outcome. And I think it's particularly impactful because Trump put so much value in loyalty and sort of rewarding that loyalty, at least he claims to. Are we going to see some kind of favorability for these companies or these portfolios? And if so, does that impact? And I'm sitting here trying to put my CIO hat on and say, is that a good thing? If I'm doing work with a portfolio company that may have that upside, is it a risky thing? Because then that could invite recrimination in the next administration if it's not Trump, or not a Republican administration. So it's just so fascinating to me, and I don't have any great answers. And that also, well, this one is a little bit more clear. Again, not really all that enterprise IT related, but the whole crypto piece of it was absolutely fascinating to me. The fact that Trump went there so heavily to begin with, especially because from my perspective, crypto had sort of gone through its hype cycle and was on the downswing. Um, and now clearly making a huge play and putting a focus on crypto. And so clearly those folks are going to come out, I think, on the winning side. Although again, I'm not 100% sure in which way, unless he Trump goes out and actually takes some really big swings about introducing it as a national digital currency or something.